Uh-oh, I have a problem. Epos Audio sent me this Topping D70 Pro Octo DAC, and it has me questioning my purchase of my beloved Denafrips Ares II. The D70 Pro Octo is packed with a lot of awesome features, plenty more than the Denafrips Ares II. But for me, it always comes down to sound, and it'll be interesting to see if I can hear any difference between the two. And you got to stick around for this comparison because something happened that almost derailed this video completely. So let's get right to it. Is the D70 Pro really gonna replace my Ares II that I just bought less than 6 months ago? I've had so much fun spending time with the D70 Pro Octo over the last month, and I want this video to be a lot of fun too. Since Epos Audio is loaning me this DAC for review, this is really going to be more about my experience with both and trying to determine if I made a mistake spending $775 on the Ares II versus the D70 Pro Octo at just $599. In fact, it's on sale for $521 at the moment. So don't expect a lot of measurements in this video or trying to determine whether or not R2R DACs are the best. This is really going to be about whether or not I want to buy the D70 Pro Octo and keep it in my system and sell off the Ares II. Now let's get something done right now. D70 Pro Octo is a mouthful, and I just really don't want to have to say that through the entire video. So I'm going to be referencing it as the D70 from here on out because Pro Octo, like I said, it's a mouthful, and it kind of just reminds me of ESPN 8, the Ocho from the Dodgeball movie. Actually, it would be fun to call this DAC the Ocho the entire time. My previous experience with DACs have been limited to plain looking boxes that really only have one job to do, and that's converting a digital signal to an analog signal for my abnormally little ears to be able to hear music. The D70 actually is more of an integrated preamp with streaming options, and it even comes with a remote control. For instance, you can easily connect your phone to the D70 just using the Bluetooth 5.1, while the Ares II does not offer this option at all. Now, I'm a big fan of the Weem streamers, but I have to admit, it was kind of fun just simply connecting directly via Bluetooth to the D70 and not having to deal with any apps or anything like that. Now, obviously with the Weem streamers, I get access to EQ and probably a little bit better sound than using Bluetooth. But again, it was just fun and easy to connect to the D70 and start playing music right away. Now, as much fun as I had connecting easily to Bluetooth, it didn't sound as good as connecting a direct source like I did with my shit-erd CD transport. The D70 comes with a remote control and has volume control, while the Ares II does not. This means the D70 can be used more like an integrated preamp, especially for desktop and headphone use. It also means you can connect the D70 directly to an amplifier or active speakers, something you can't do with the Ares II. I connected the D70 directly to my Schiit Saga Plus preamp, so all the volume control was handled there, but I still found myself using the remote to easily swap between inputs and screen displays. Now, speaking of display, I really love the small screen on the left-hand side of the D70, which allows you 3 different options to view your music playback, including a VU meter. It's obvious that the Ares II doesn't have a display, and at first I thought the D70's display would just kind of be a silly little add-on, but I really did fall in love with the engagement I was able to get with my music playback via this little screen. One more thing I really enjoy about the display on the D70 is you can just handle everything via touch. Just touch the menu button and use the knob on the far right to change through all of the options, and you can select everything there. Obviously, the Denafrips doesn't have this, but that's one of the extra conveniences with having the display on the D70, along with the fun music presentation that display also provides. Now, turning both units around, you'll notice they both have the same output options, RCA and XLR, but the D70 has an option that the Ares II does not, which is that you can increase from 2 volts to 2.5 volts with RCA and you can increase from 4 volts to 5 volts using XLR. There are differences between these two DACs when it comes to inputs. Now, I've already pointed out that the D70 offers a 5.1 Bluetooth streaming connectivity, while the Ares II does not. But there is another input that the D70 has, which is an AES input that the Ares II does not have. Now, both DACs have USB input. However, for some reason, the Ares II offers 2 coax and 2 optical inputs, while the D70 only has 1 of each. So why is this DAC called the D7 Pro Octo? Well, the design of this DAC includes 8 DAC chips, and these are all by Cirrus Logic, the CS43198. Now, I know what you're thinking. Dang, brother, that's a lot of chips. And I agree with you. I did a little research online as to why a company would offer 8 DAC chips in their design, and I found a very informative video from Paul from PS Audio explaining that basically with each pair of DAC chips that are included, it helps reduce noise and distortion by half. Now, the Ares II is an R2R DAC, and one of the longest running arguments online is whether R2R DACs sound better. So I was really interested in doing a sound comparison between these two, at least until this happened. I was removing the coax cable from the D70, and the entire end of the cable just came right out of the socket there. So I gotta figure out if I can actually replace this in time to finish making this video. So I ended up making a quick trip to Best Buy, and I was able to pick up this 6-foot coaxial audio cable. I think it was $8. Probably not the best quality cable out there, but it helped me in a pinch because, I don't know, it's not like you can just easily go out and find coax cables these days, not like you used to be able to. Now, a lot of people here on the tube don't like that I don't use measurements and tell me that my opinion is merely subjective, to which I will simply reply, yep. But look, I don't want to measure DACs. I just want to listen to both of them and try to determine if I can really hear any sound differences. That's it. But I also understand the importance of measurements. So just so I don't leave anyone out in my experience here with this video, I was able to come up with this measurement for the D70. Oh man, everyone's gonna be really mad at me about that measurement joke. I'm sorry. Listen, I've really been enjoying the new Norah Jones album, and I'll be honest, the songs were pretty close when trying to listen to the differences between these two DACs with this album. If anything, I noticed that the Topping sort of like to pick out certain instrumentation, like Norah's piano playing in certain songs, and bring it forward, while the Ares II always seemed to keep all the instruments more evenly mixed together. Now, during the song Queen of the Sea, the Topping's bass presentation was a lot punchier than the Ares II. So keep that in mind if bass is really important to your listening preferences. Next, I got out my decibel meter to make sure that I had everything evenly matched because I wanted to listen to something really obnoxious very loudly and see how either of these DACs could handle it. So I chose the song Head Like a Hole by 9 Inch Nails. Now, it was during this song that the Ares II sounded more precise during the chorus, and overall, the instruments were better separated. Now, remember, the bass presentation on the Topping is a lot punchier, but sometimes that punchier bass can cause the mid-range to sound a little crowded, like it can't figure out which instrument it wants to highlight the best. And by precise, I mean that the Ares II better handled the attack of the staccato drums throughout the song. Also, during the song, if you remember, there's sort of this woo, woo, woo. It's like a instrumental whooshing sound that kind of goes throughout. And the Topping, it sounded more like a noise, but with the Ares II, it actually sounded more like an instrumental effect, like it was originally intended. Now, lastly, I listened to the song Breed by Nirvana. And again, it was during the song that I could hear how the punchier bass with the topping tended to crowd that mid-range instrumentation, while the Ares just had everything sound a little bit better mixed together. I guess what I'm saying is I preferred a little less punchier bass with the Ares 2 so that the instrumentation overall was represented better. Now, in this song, during the guitar solo, the guitar sound pans from the right speaker to the left speaker. It starts really loud right and moves over to the left twice. And what I noticed was that the Ares 2 did a really good job of moving that sound completely from the right speaker to the left speaker, like I've heard so many times on headphones and in all the other many ways that I've listened to this album over the years. And the topping seemed to want to move it over, but it just kept kind of bouncing back and forth in the middle there, like it was getting stuck. And it just didn't quite make that full move from the right speaker to the left speaker. Now, it's probably coming across that I prefer the sound of the Ares 2 to the D70. What I really want to get across in this video is not that I think one DAC sounds better than the other, it's pointing out the differences between the two. And even though there's some things I might enjoy with the Ares 2 over the topping, there were some things that I liked with the topping that I didn't with the Ares 2. So you can get really nitpicky when you're comparing the sound of DACs that are this close in price. And to be honest with you, I had the Ares 2 out of my system for almost a month now, only using the D70. And I really found it to be a fun and engaging DAC. And that's what led me to wanting to make this video in the first place, because I'm starting to think, oh, I should have bought this DAC instead of the Ares 2, and I would have saved money because I spent $775 on the Ares 2, and I could have gotten this topping DAC that has a lot more features and is really fun and engaging at $599 or maybe even less. So, have I made a decision? Am I going to buy the D70 and sell off the Ares 2? I think right now I'm going to hold on to the Ares 2. Again, I have really loved having the D70 in my system, but for me personally right now and where I'm at financially, having 2 kids in college, it makes sense for me to hold on to the Ares 2, which I've already paid for, and not make a further investment in the D70. But if you're someone that's looking for a DAC in the $500 to $600 range, you're not sure you want to go over that and upgrade to Denafrips or something along those lines, the D70 Pro Octo has been a great DAC to use. And I think that you'll find that it is really enjoyable and it's going to produce sound that's going to make you very happy and enjoy the digital playback in a way that you haven't heard before. Now, like I said earlier, people love it when I make sound comparison between DACs because a lot of folks think all DACs sound the same. Do they? I thought it'd be fun earlier this year to compare an $80 DAC with an $800 DAC, and that's exactly what I did. If you'd be interested to see if I could hear any differences between those two DACs, you can do so by watching this video here.